Good evening, I'm Ryan Bonazzo. Thank you for joining us. The District Health Unit has declared another COVID-19 outbreak, this time at the Child Care Center inside St. Anne's School, which also has an active outbreak at this time. 2 people associated with the Mamawenchike Family Development Center have tested positive for the virus. The health unit says at least one of the cases originated inside the facility. There are now 5 active outbreaks at schools and child care centers in the city. 9 local schools and 3 child care centers have COVID cases at this time. The district's daily COVID-19 case count is also back into double digits today. The health unit is reporting 14 new cases. 11 are from the Thunder Bay area. 2 cases come from other district communities, while 1 is on a First Nation. 10 of today's infections are a result of close contact, while the other 4 exposure sources are unknown at this time. There are now 94 active cases, the most since April 10th. Meanwhile, in the Northwestern Health Unit, there's 1 new case in the Dryden-Red Lake area. The NWHU has 16 active cases. That's 1 fewer than yesterday. The rapid spread of the Omicron variant has health officials across Ontario concerned about whether the province's healthcare system can handle another wave of the pandemic.
Everybody else who works in healthcare and hospitals is just exhausted. So the prospect of another serious wave of COVID-19 led by the new variant is the last thing anyone wants to hear.
The Ontario COVID-19 Science Table is warning that intensive care units don't have enough capacity to deal with the kind of volumes of critically ill patients the province has seen in previous waves. It's calling for the implementation of public health measures to reduce transmission of COVID-19. Ontario's Auditor General has found that thousands of businesses received more than $200 million in provincial COVID-19 supports that they weren't eligible for. The audit found a lack of good consultation, improper tracking of funds, and poorly designed eligibility criteria allowed ineligible businesses to receive the money. Colin DeMello explains.
As Ontario struggled with the second wave of COVID-19, the government was scrambling to help small businesses impacted by the pandemic.
Was true that they were trying to do that in a rushed manner.
Government bureaucrats were given just 2 days to design a program that would give small business owners grants of between $10,000 to $20,000. But a new report from the Auditor General found the government gave nearly $1 billion to businesses that simply didn't need it.
It is very troubling that you have an IT system in place that is distributing, not catching applications that and distributing money to people that might not be entitled to it.
The AG found that 14,000 businesses received a total of $210 million, even though they did not qualify for the grant.
It's a lot of money. $210 million is a lot of money.
Another 51,000 businesses received $939 million, despite experiencing a combined loss of just $225 million. In fact, the auditor says some lost as little as 2 cents, but still applied and still received $10,000. And thousands of businesses like laundromats and dry cleaners were left out of the program altogether, despite being impacted. The government admits mistakes were made because they prioritize speed over accuracy.
When we're rushing the money out the door to support the small businesses that were in desperate need of it, unfortunately, you're going to see some fraud, and we don't take that lightly.
The AG agrees the government was defrauded, but says instead of going to the OPP, the government decided to forgive and forget. The Ford government suggests the province didn't catch it, so it wasn't the business owner's fault.
They'd suffered enough, and we wanted to go after them. Those that we determined were made in good faith.
But critics disagree, saying the province should find those responsible.
That money should be recovered. They have the names of the companies. They have their bank accounts where they transferred the money. That money should be, there should be an attempt to recover that money.
Ultimately, though, the Premier is not expressing regret, saying despite the fraud, the money went right back into the province's economy.
Local MPP Judith Monteith-Farrell says her party's plan to raise Ontario's minimum wage to $20 an hour by 2026 is simply the right thing to do. NDP leader Andrea Horwath made the campaign-style announcement yesterday, hoping to rally support ahead of the June election.
The price of everything is going up, and people are working their tails off just to try to make ends meet. We know that.
Well, the Ford government is set to raise the minimum wage from $14.35 an hour to $15 on January 1st after freezing the rate when the PCs came into power back in 2018. But the official opposition insists the increase doesn't go far enough and is pledging, if elected, to bump it up an additional $1 every year until it tops out at $20 an hour. Monteith Farrell believes even at that rate of pay, that minimum wage workers will still spend the vast majority of their money locally helping municipal economies.
Afford to live on the minimum wage that is in place right now. And that's very evident. And it's evident to all the people that are trying to make people survive. It's actually a disincentive because a lot of people can't afford to go to work. They can't afford the transportation or the childcare. And when you have this graduated approach with supports for small business, it just makes sense because people who are even making $20 an hour, every dollar is spent in the community on necessities.
Monteith Farrell insists lending a hand up to the working poor will save the province in health care and other costs down the road. The community has given its support to a proposed skateboard park at the former Dease Park pool site, and now city councillors need to sign off on a number of plans for the Dease Street area on Monday night. City staff are looking to redevelop the nearby park, adding a skating rink that doubles as a basketball court in the summer. Corey Nordstrom has more.
It's an exciting time to be living in the Dease Street area. City Council has received a report outlining City Administration's vision for Dease Park and the site of the former Dease Pool. They're recommending a skate park on the site after community consultation voiced overwhelming support in that favor. John Kelly is the chair of the local skateboard coalition, which the city is consulting for the skate park. He's excited for what this means for local kids and the community as a whole.
More activity down here, more eyes on it. It's going to get a lot of this stuff. It's going to clean up this area quite a bit. You're going to encourage families to use this park. It's close to a school. I mean, this is going to be one of the utilized parks in the city once it's finished.
Some in the area were concerned about noise as a result of the skate park. Design plans now contain solutions to deflect some of the noise away from houses. Councillor Brian Hamilton, a skateboarder himself, is confident there will be support at City Hall.
I have a feeling council will support the plan on Monday. We'll have, basketball, skateboarding, BMXing, a full, we'll be able to really address the entirety of service gaps in the neighborhood.
The skate park would cost roughly $500,000. Community Services GM Kelly Robertson outlines the next steps in the process if council directs administration to proceed with the plan.
There'll be more detailed consultation around refining the plan for redevelopment for the Dease Pool site, and we'll report back to council on the outcome of those plans in Q4 of 2022.
Council also has to sign off on directing an additional $25,000 toward a $278,000 outdoor rink and basketball court. It's slated to be constructed in the place of the current basketball nets and be up in time for next winter. And to go along with the work proposed in the area, administration is looking at traffic studies on Dease Street, with more youth likely in the area.
I think we heard loud and clear from the neighborhood itself that I think they viewed it as Dease Street in its current form as an issue, especially if both halves get developed for year-round use.
Corey Nordstrom, TVT News.
Details have now been released regarding a fatal highway collision west of Dryden on Sunday morning. OPP says an eastbound tractor trailer crashed into another transport that was parked on the side of Highway 17. The two occupants of the parked transport weren't hurt, but the driver of the eastbound rig, a 31-year-old man from Woodstock, Ontario, was pronounced dead at the scene. The highway was completely closed for 9 hours between Dryden and Vermilion Bay while OPP investigated. The Faculty and Staff Association at the Northern Ontario School of Medicine isn't happy with the Ford government's draft regulations for the new standalone NASM university. A university is usually governed under a bicameral model, meaning there are two sources of authority: the Board of Governors that oversees administration and finance, and the University Senate, which governs the academic side. But according to NASM Faculty and Staff Association President Dr. Brian Ross, that's not what the government has proposed. He explains why that could be a problem.
The concern is that at the moment, the regulations that have been published have essentially the Senate reporting to the board. So they're no longer independent. And that means that the people that sit in the Senate, the teachers, the faculty, don't have the final say over things like curriculum and programs. And every other university in Canada does.
The consultation period will end soon. The government will hear opinions and concerns before it comes to a final decision on how the new university will be governed. A Lakehead University Law School professor is calling for an end to vaccine passports and other COVID mandates. Ryan Alford has added his name to the Free North Declaration, as it's known. The online petition has garnered thousands of signatures, including those of several hundred legal professionals. Danielle Bain reports.
People are looking for an opportunity to say that they don't agree with what they consider a one-sided narrative.
Professor Ryan Alford from the Boer-Alaskan Faculty of Law is just one of 398 lawyers who have signed the Free North Declaration online, which has over 43,000 citizen signatures as well. This declaration calls for the immediate end of vaccine passports and mandates. Alford felt that signing it was a chance to air concern for the erosion of civil liberties during the pandemic.
There's only really one problem in the public's mind, which is a very serious problem, that of safety and health. But as a legal profession, we have a special responsibility to promote constitutionality, to promote the rule of law, to promote the idea that there are always limits on what governments can do, even in emergencies.
Alford says there are many factors involved in concerns about vaccine mandates beyond public health that people might not consider, and decisions should be made based on all factors, not just health.
You can't just discuss something like a school closure or not allowing someone to access a kind of service without considering whether or not that has an implication on people who have human rights at stake or have constitutional rights at stake. And I think that the more that we allow for that kind of consideration, the better, more balanced outcome that we'll have.
Alford says the ultimate goal of the declaration is to allow for equal discussion.
What lawyers are doing in standing up for these principles, including freedom of expression, is to allow for precisely that kind of dialogue. Not that one particular view should prevail, but it's in that airing of ideas and in that exchange of views that we're far more likely to have a positive discussion and to actually have a fruitful discussion when we get closer to truth and to what is desirable as public policy.
In regards to LU's vaccine mandate, Alford thinks that the clear policy for exemptions shows the consideration of human rights at stake and believes that it's a step in the right direction. Danielle Bain, TBT News.
A bookworm's delight has kicked off once again after a one-year hiatus due to the pandemic. The annual Christmas Extravaganza book sale is now on at Victoriaville Mall. The longtime fundraiser is organized by the Friends of the Thunder Bay Public Library. It's a favorite of many local readers due to its buck-a-bag style sale, where customers can purchase a bag for $1 and fill it with as many books as they can fit. The sale takes part in two areas of the mall, mainly in the Village Green section. A gift table near the South Side Book Nook pairs books with small items that organizers say are perfect for the holidays. All of the books are donated by the library, with proceeds going to its coffers.
All of the money that we raised here, we donate back to the library, and they in turn have money then to run programs and refresh the collections or do buy furniture. One day I was sitting in Waverly and I looked over and I saw a little end table and it said, "Purchased by the Friends of the Library."
The book sale at Victoriaville runs for the rest of this week from 11 to 4 on weekdays and noon to 3 on Saturday. Familiar spirits will haunt Magnus Theatre this holiday season. The upcoming one-man production of Jacob Marley's Christmas Carol frames the iconic tale from the perspective of Ebenezer Scrooge's former business partner. Mitchell Ringos has the details.
Chains, the sound of chains being...
The spirited tale of redemption will tell Charles Dickens' beloved holiday classic from the perspective of Jacob Harley, who must free his immortal soul from hellish eternity by settling his accounts and redeeming the heart of the miserly old Scrooge. With this production being a one-man show, Magnus director Tom Curry says the sheer amount of special effects added for this production has never been seen at this theater before.
There are moments where Marley is walking in space, and it really looks like he's standing out there in space somewhere with the stars all around and the stars below his feet. So there's some incredible looking special effects. I don't think we've ever really pushed the envelope this far.
The show will see the return of Jacob James to Magnus as he portrays all 16 characters in the play. James grew up loving the holiday classic and says it's exciting to not only star in the play, but also tell a story from an alternate perspective to a live audience.
I'm really looking forward to this next stage of having the audience here to help, get the energy back, which will then fuel the momentum of the piece, but also to get some information from them on how to tell this story. Do you know what I mean? Because ultimately, it's about this this golden cord connection between the actor on stage and the audience around them.
And Curry stressed that this Christmas Carol isn't for the faint of heart, especially for children, as the play touches on the darkest aspects of the well-known story.
The scariest moment in Christmas Carol is when Jacob Marley comes into the room. There's a lot more of that in this show. So if you've got an 8-year-old or a 6-year-old and you're thinking, hey, I'm going to take him up to Magnus to see this Christmas Carol, I don't recommend that at all.
Magnus Theatre has upped capacity for this show from 50% to 65%. Jacob Marley's Christmas Carol will run from December 2nd to the 18th. Mitchell Ringos, TBT News.